spirit will rise from my grave, and you all know that I was right.
He will spend the rest of his life locked away, and eventually he will die in state prison.
On May 26, 2017, Jeremy Christian harassed 2 teenage girls. When 3 men intervened, Christian attacked them with a knife, causing the deaths of 2 individuals and severely injuring another person. Christian was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted first-degree murder, and several counts of assault and intimidation.
Yes, Judge, my name is Greg Scholl, 9544039 from the Metropolitan.
Free speech or die, Portland. You got no safe place. This is America. Get out if you don't like free speech.
He shows up to court for his arraignment and starts causing a scene immediately. The trial began in January 2020 in Multnomah County Circuit Court. As the victim, Demetria Hester, was giving her statement at his sentencing, Mr. Christian loses it and starts threatening her before getting kicked out of the courtroom.
In my case, the white supremacist got special treatment from the police. The police officer Gaskin believed the assault was made by the assailant. He didn't believe me or the 2 TriMet supervisors. The police captured, not killed, a racist white supremacist known to the police. Holding the bloody knife, he attacked and killed people with while drinking wine from his Gatorade bottle. And to Mr. Jeremy Christian, your mom should have swallowed you. You are a waste of breath. And when you die and go to hell, I hope you rot.
See you there. You ain't gonna be mayor either. You ain't gonna be mayor either. The whole city. George Floyd. George Floyd. I should have. Everybody knows you're a liar. Everybody knows you're a liar, huh?
In February 2020, the jury found Jeremy Christian guilty on all counts, including 2 counts of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and assault. Christian was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus over 50 years, ensuring he would spend the rest of his life in prison. But this next case wasn't any better. On April 13, 2014, Miller opened fire outside the Jewish Community Center of Greater Kansas City and the Village Shalom Retirement Community. He killed 3 people: 14-year-old Reed Underwood, his grandfather William Corporon, and Terry Lamano.
For the Jews, who rule every one of them through money. The United States government is required by the Constitution that they sworn to uphold to protect each state from invasion. There's 20,000 illegal aliens who crossed our borders illegally, breaking our laws, by the hundreds of thousands, some case millions. There's no law, they didn't pass a law against criticizing us, white people, or black people, or Native Americans, or any other people, just the Jews. It's called the Global Anti-Semitism Act of 2004. He got a slam dunk. Let's face it, y'all gonna put me on death row, everybody knows that. He got all that, but he's not satisfied.
Mr. Miller?
He wants to stop me from...
Miller shouted anti-Semitic statements during the attacks, though none of his victims were Jewish. He used the United States Constitution to excuse the actions he took, showing no remorse at all.
The state must prove my criminal intent. I submit that I had no criminal intent. I had a patriotic intent to stop the genocide against my people. This genocide is as obvious as the words diversity, the melting pot, and changing demographics. That's what it means. That's white genocide. I also have the right to explain to you jurors, you juror members, my frame of mind on April 13, 2014, the day of the shooting, for what was in my head that aroused so much anger and intense dislikes. Anger that enraged a 73-year-old married father of 6, retired United States Army Master Sergeant on pension, who lived a good and happy family life on our farm in Missouri. What the hell caused me to commit such a bloody, deadly act? You've got a right to know that, and you got a right to know all of it.
Miller, representing himself, admitted to the shootings but pleaded not guilty, arguing his actions were meant to protect the white race.
I find from the review of the entirety of the evidence presented in this trial that the jury's verdict should be and is affirmed. And for your conviction for capital murder, you will be transported to the Kansas Department of Corrections to carry out the sentence of death by lethal injection as provided by Kansas law.
However, one day my spirit will rise from my grave and you all know that I was right.
On September 2015, the jury found Frazier Glenn Miller guilty on all charges, including capital murder and first-degree murder. Miller was sentenced to death by lethal injection. The judge also sentenced him to 69 additional years for other crimes related to the shooting spree. The cycle of racially motivated violence continued nearly 7 years later. On May 14, 2022, Peyton Gendron, a white supremacist, drove over 200 miles to a predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo, New York. He opened fire at the Tops Friendly Markets grocery store, killing 10 people and injuring 3 others. Most of the victims were black. Gendron live-streamed the attack and left behind a manifesto expressing his racist and anti-Semitic beliefs.
I want to acknowledge that today is what I can only imagine. One of many solemn days in the lives of the survivors and the family members of those who died. Their words are heart-wrenching. Their loss unimaginable. Only those who have lived it can truly understand their anguish. For the devastation that he caused, Peyton Gendron will be sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison with no possibility of ever being released. Our client committed these terrible crimes. He is responsible for his actions. And he will be held accountable. And he will suffer the consequences for what he did. This case highlights, however, a much deeper problem. This young man's violent, hate-fueled assault was in part the product of centuries of pervasive racism and discrimination in this country. These problems need to be addressed, just as many others have publicly demanded since this terrible event took place. Unfortunately, neither this proceeding nor any criminal trial can expose or address the historical racism that set the stage for our client's horrible acts. We, as a community, need to have those conversations in our legislative bodies and in our living rooms to achieve meaningful change. We know that some of the families and their lawyers have asked for the information collected by law enforcement during their investigations of this crime. We support that request. We hope the resolution of this case brings the day for that information to be shared closer. The racist hate that motivated this crime was spread through online platforms. And the violence that was made possible was in part due to the easy access of assault weapons. Still, our client is responsible for this crime. He will spend the rest of his life locked away, and eventually he will die in state prison. We hope that knowing he will never be free again will offer some small bit of comfort to those that he hurt so much.
Victims' families had the opportunity to confront the man who shattered their lives.
And my dad was Andre McNeil. He went to that store to get a cake for my little brother because May 14th is his birthday, my little brother's birthday. And he turned 3 years old, and he didn't get to celebrate his birthday with his dad because he never came back. So, I was told to write an impact statement. First, I was being selfish, and I said I wasn't gonna do it, but then I remember I wasn't doing it for this selfish coward, or the courts, or the press, but I was doing it for my dad. my best friend, who was snatched from this world because of something he couldn't change, the color of his skin.
Do I hate you? No. Do I want to hurt you? Yes. And trust me and believe, these dudes can't stop me, really. I'm the littlest thing in here, very agile, but I don't want to hurt you. And I got 10 children I got to go home to. Andre had 5. And they can't even see him anymore. And my nephew, my 3-year-old nephew, every day, he's calling for his father.
Asking when he's coming back from Buffalo.
And he can't? And he's not coming? You know how bad that hurts?
A grieving family member tried to handle things on their own.
That ain't fair to say. You gonna come to our city and decide you don't like black people. Man, you don't know a damn thing about black people. We're human. We like our kids to go to good schools. We love our kids. We never go in those neighborhoods and take people out. Don't do it.
The family member who tried to act on their own was quickly removed from the courtroom. After all the testimonies, the shooter finally spoke up.
I'm very sorry for all the pain I forced the victims and their families to suffer through. I'm very sorry for stealing the lives of your loved ones. I cannot express how much I regret all the decisions I made leading up to my actions on May 14th. I did a terrible thing that day. I shot and killed people because they were black. Looking back now, I can't believe I actually did it. I believed what I read online and acted out of hate. I know I can't take it back, but I wish I could.
In November 2022, Gendron pleaded guilty to state charges, including murder, hate-motivated domestic terrorism, and other related charges. Gendron admitted to his crimes and expressed remorse during the trial.
There is no place for you or your ignorant, hateful, and evil ideologies in a civilized society. There can be no mercy for you, no understanding, no second chances. The damage you have caused is too great, and the people you have hurt are too valuable to this community. You will never see the light of day as a free man ever again. It is the judgment of this court for your conviction under the first count of the indictment, a domestic act of terrorism motivated by hate in the first degree, an A1 felony, that you be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole.
Gendron was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the state charges. Gendron's case underscores the deadly impact of hate, similar to the actions of Russell Courtier in Oregon. On August 10, 2016, Russell Courtier, a member of a white supremacist gang called European Kindred, and his girlfriend Colleen Hunt encountered 19-year-old Larnell Bruce Jr., a black teenager, outside a 7-Eleven store in Gresham, Oregon. An altercation ensued, during which Bruce attempted to flee. Courtier and Hunt chased him in their Jeep, ultimately running him over. Bruce died from his injuries a few days later. The prosecution argued that Courtier's actions were racially motivated and stemmed from his affiliation with a white supremacist gang.
Before midnight, on a summer night in August, 2.5 years ago, Mr. Courtier got into a Jeep owned by his fiancée, Colleen Hunt, to drive, along with her, to a 7-Eleven store about a half mile from where she lived. It was an old Jeep. Didn't run very well. It had a soft top and soft plastic windows that didn't offer much in the way of protection. But there was no need to worry about it. Again, they were just going to 7-Eleven, a half mile from where she lived. What neither Mr. Courtier nor Ms. Hunt knew that night as they drove toward the 7-Eleven was that there waiting at the store was a group of people who were about to set in motion a series of events with catastrophic consequences. What this case is going to turn on, what was in Mr. Courtier's mind? What were his thoughts? What were his intentions? over his fears. How calmly and rationally was he able to make decisions and understand everything going on around him in that extremely threatening, traumatic.
The defense did not deny that Courtier ran over Bruce, but argued that it was not premeditated murder. They claimed that the incident was not racially motivated and that Courtier did not intend to kill Bruce.
You didn't just ruin my life, but you ruined your own. You have a son, and now he has to live the rest of his life without his father. I think what you did was, it was bigger than us. That ideology that you have is not good for anybody. You didn't just make us suffer. You have your own family suffering as well. Your son now has to grow up and put this all inside his head and try to figure out, and hopefully he doesn't make and think the same way that you do. This world it doesn't belong to any of us. We're just here visiting, and everyone has a right to be here.
I would like to start off saying that I started raising my son at the same age that he died, 19 years old. From the minute that he was put in my arms, he never left my side. He was the mama's boy, attached to the hip, doing everything with me, from cooking to cleaning, the yard work, everything that none of the other kids wanted to do. I like to tell a story that's one of my favorite stories about Bubba. When he was 3, I would complain to my husband about the light not being fixed. And as husbands do, he procrastinated on fixing it. I woke up in the morning and my man had taken every light switch off with a screwdriver at 3 years old and handed me the screws and told me that he fixed it.
The family of the victim take the stance in court speaking about the whole situation.
We, the jury, find the defendant as to count 1, murder, guilty. And so the jurors did not answer the other questions related to count 1. On count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant as to count 2, failure to perform the duties of a driver, guilty. And we, the jury, find the defendant as to count 3, intimidation in the 2nd degree, guilty.
On March 19, 2019, Russell Courtier was found guilty of murder, second-degree intimidation, and failure to perform the duties of a driver. Courtier was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 28 years. Jose Dwayne Ricardo Onfroy, aka XXX Tentacion, was tragically shot and killed on June 18, 2018. The incident took place in Deerfield Beach, Florida, when XXX Tentacion was leaving a motorcycle dealership. Video pulled from a surveillance camera shows 2 armed men who approached his vehicle, robbed him of a Louis Vuitton bag containing $50,000, and fatally shot him. Four men were charged in connection with XXX Tentacion's murder. Michael Boatwright, accused of being the primary shooter. Dedrick Williams, allegedly the getaway driver and a key organizer of the robbery. Trayvon Newsom, believed to be the second gunman. Robert Allen, initially a suspect, but he later pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for testimony against the other defendants.
Trayvon Newsom, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree with a firearm and robbery with a deadly weapon, I will sentence you to life in Florida State Prison with a 10-year minimum mandatory and credit for 1,704 days already served. The 2 sentences will run concurrent with each other. Williams, you are the perfect example of why we have a law of principles in this state. When you engage in criminal acts with others, you bear the responsibility for your collective actions. It was you who picked the target in this case. Now, while you may not have left the vehicle and you may not have brandished a firearm or fired the fatal shots, you are as guilty as they are. Dedrick Williams, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of murder in the first degree and robbery with a firearm as a principal. As to count one, this court will find you guilty, adjudicate you to be guilty, sentence you to life in Florida State Prison. Mr. Boatwright, you turned a robbery into a murder. And on that day, when you stood there and fired that weapon, you didn't just end one life. You effectively ended 5 lives, including your own. You need to understand that when we say life in Florida State Prison, that means life.
Michael Boatwright, Dedrick Williams, and Trayvon Newsome were all found guilty of first-degree murder and armed robbery. All 3 men received life sentences without the possibility of parole. David Parga was charged with killing Marlon Robinson during a 2006 robbery attempt. He was apprehended based on evidence, including witness statements and forensic findings. The trial featured witness testimonies and evidence from both sides. Parga was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, along with additional sentences for related charges.
I know there's nothing I could do to bring you guys' son back, brother back, but I am deeply sorry for what happened to him.
Turning in his chair to face the family of the Cal State Fullerton student that he murdered, David Parga apologized to Leland Washington's mother, father, sister, and brother.
There's days that the grief is so much that I just kind of muddle through the day. You have to understand who he was. He was such a great person, and the way that he died, he did not deserve that at all.
The 27-year-old Orange County man was shot to death by the gangster outside of a Halloween party in La Habra for no reason. It's taken 8 years, but the judge says the person responsible is headed to prison for a long, long time.
Halloween weekend will never be the same for us. My brother was murdered that weekend, and it's ironic that we're here today.
To you specifically, I want to say sorry to what happened to your son. I know the pain you're feeling. My mom comes to see me, she cries because what's happening to me, and I could only imagine what you're going through. You lost your son.
On August 7th, 2011, Sharon Staples, a pregnant mother, was fatally shot by 16-year-old Mikal Thomas during a robbery in Milwaukee. Thomas, who should have been under supervision, received 35 years in prison, while 15-year-old Malik Merchant got 17 years. The crime and system failure shocked the community.
Don't do that
On October 24, 2014, Luis Bracamontes went on a shooting spree that resulted in the deaths of Sacramento County Sheriff's Deputy Danny Oliver and Placer County Sheriff's Detective Michael Davis Jr. Bracamontes also wounded a civilian and another officer during the rampage. After a series of carjackings and a standoff, Bracamontes was apprehended and taken into custody.
Be silent. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please step out of the hallway.
I don't fucking regret that shit. All they say is I fucking regret is I fucking killed too. I wish I fucking killed more of those motherfuckers. Pocket.
We asked the camera to be turned off. I think the order was late through.
I will break out soon and I will kill more. If we ever fucking get in front of me, just like that.
Bracamontes frequently disrupted the courtroom proceedings with outbursts, profanities, and racial slurs. Despite initially pleading not guilty, Bracamontes admitted to the killings during the trial.
Madam Clerk, please read the verdict.
Superior Court of California, County of Sacramento, the people of the state of California, plaintiff versus Luis Enriquez Monroy Bracamontes, defendant. Case number 14F07390, Department 21, verdict count 1. Regarding the charge in count 1, Luis Enriquez Monroy Bracamontes did unlawfully and with malice aforethought commit murder in the first degree of Sacramento County Sheriff's Deputy Daniel Oliver, we find the defendant guilty. We further find the allegation that the defendant used and intentionally and personally discharged a firearm, to wit, a 9mm handgun, and thereby approximately caused the death to be true. Special circumstance number 1.
On February 9th, 2018, Bracamontes was found guilty on all counts, including the first-degree murders of the 2 deputies.
Sitting in a white sweatshirt, smile on his face, Luis Bracamontes learned the jury's recommendation for sentencing today.
The penalty to be imposed upon Luis Enriquez Monroy Bracamontes is death.
The jury found Bracamontes, convicted of murdering Sacramento Sheriff's Deputy Danny Oliver and Placer County Sheriff's Detective Mike Davis during a 2014 crime spree, should be put to death.
There was nothing we could find that justified in any way any other outcome than what we came up with.
Juror number 3, Sam Wood, said there was some initial disagreement about whether Bracamontes should get the death penalty, but the facts of the case were clear.
We did work at it, and there was some, talking back and forth about, some of the facts and things of that sort.
Sheriff Scott Jones attended today's hearing and said the jury's decision is another step towards justice.
There's still some journey left, and true justice won't come until the imposition of that sentence that he earned, but certainly this is a continuing step along the right path.
Bracamontes' wife, Janelle Monroy, was also found guilty in the deaths of Oliver and Davis. She was sentenced to nearly 50 years in prison. In Sacramento, Max Resnick, KCRA 3 News.
The jury recommended the death penalty, which was formalized by the judge on March 27, 2018. During sentencing, Bracamontes remained unrepentant and continued his tirades. In 2015, the 16-year-old Tariq Jackson opened fire when a fight broke out between 2 Ypsilanti gangs. Jackson was apprehended by law enforcement shortly after the incident, based on witness statements, forensic evidence, or other investigative leads. Jackson faced charges of first-degree murder, along with potential additional charges such as possession of a weapon during the commission of a crime, assault, or other related offenses.
First off, I just want to say sorry to the family of the victim. I wish the situation would have played out like that. I never thought that my choices and decisions would have affected so many people. No mother deserves to bury her son, and no mother deserves to see her son change. My bad choice led to a lose-lose situation for me, my family, and the family of the victim. I understand that Paul's mom won't get to hug her son again. I won't be able to hug mine for a while, and my mom won't be able to hug me for a while, so it's a sad situation. But in favor of my grandparents and my parents, I just want it to be known that, my family didn't raise me to be a bad person, or that I'm not even that type of person. The lifestyle that I chose to live put me in a situation that was just played out negatively.
Our whole world was turned upside down from that point. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because that when our children make these decisions out here, they don't understand how it affects everybody. You changed our lives forever.
Eyewitness and expert testimonies influenced the jury's perception. After closing arguments, the jury deliberated and returned a verdict of either guilty or not guilty. If guilty, Jackson faced sentencing, possibly including life imprisonment or other severe penalties. Jeffrey Williams, known as Young Thug, faced serious charges related to gang activities, including violent crimes. His arrest followed a lengthy investigation involving surveillance, witness statements, and forensic evidence linking him to the alleged offenses.
Charges that he's facing.
Yeah, the RICO Act, the racketeering, is basically a group of people that work together, conspire together to form a criminal enterprise. And it got to be multiple people, and they've got to be doing multiple different things to make a racketeering charge. And this particular racketeering charge, according to the Fulton County prosecutor, was vast. In fact, they listed 180 plus different acts that they allege that Young Thug and his other co-defendants were taking part in, all part of the YSL, or Young Slime Life group that he has accused of being part of.
Jeffrey Williams faced multiple charges, including conspiracy to violate the RICO Act, murder, armed robbery, and other related offenses.
Criminal case of the state of Georgia versus Jeffrey Williams. The Fulton County Grand Jury has indicted the defendant Jeffrey Williams for the following crimes, which I will now read to you. Conspiracy to violate the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act. Participation in criminal street gang activity. Participation in criminal street gang activity. Violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. Violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. Violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act, possession of a firearm or commission of a felony, and possession of a machine gun.
The defense aimed to raise doubt by challenging evidence, presenting alibis, and offering alternative explanations for Williams's alleged activities.
Okay, and I mean I've said it, so let's act accordingly.
Ron.
Yes, sir.
If I can address the court briefly. I filed a supplement to the Mr. Kendrick's motion for a mistrial this morning. I just want to make sure the court's aware of it.
I am aware of it. I have not yet had a chance to look at it, but that's got it.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mostly I want to make sure I bring it to the court's attention because, again, and I've followed the request of the court to not argue what's already in the papers, but I just want to make sure that the court understands that based on this additional information that we learned about the July 7th meeting, that my client has been consistently denied his right to a fair tribunal. It's been a due process violation. I, like Mr. Shart, am extremely upset having read that transcript. Myself and my fellow outside agitators over here, I assume that they are upset as well.
Throughout the trial, the defense filed numerous motions, including efforts to suppress certain evidence and dismiss specific charges, arguing that the prosecution unfairly targeted Williams based on his music.
So Jeffrey wanted to have a performing name. So he looked to Tupac. You will learn that in 1983, the incomparable talent Michael Jackson released a song that went around the globe, P.Y.T., Pretty Young Thing. About 13 years later, Tupac is featured on a song with Smooth. And that song is P.Y.T., Playa, P-L-A-Y-A, Young Thugs. And on that song there's a repeat of words. And this really connected with Jeffrey. It's a black man that not too many understand. That's what Jeffrey felt about people with nice color skin. Jeffrey had interest in women, but he never considered himself a player. A player to Jeffrey was somebody who had the girls kind of coming at them at all times. Jeffrey wasn't like that. Jeffrey was shy. He was really tall and really skinny. He was malnourished. His teeth were rotten. There was no money to go to a dentist. And all the sugar from the candy that he ate to keep substance in his body rotted his teeth. So Jeffrey would speak by covering his teeth with his lips, or often speak like this, with his hand or his arm over his teeth, because he had low self-esteem. He was made fun of and bullied growing up.
They also claimed that the prosecution had misunderstood the stage name as Thug stands for Truly Humble Under God.
And I don't believe that this is performative outrage, Your Honor.
I mean, I don't either.
Okay.
I don't either. I already said I understand.
In July of 2023, After months of me complaining about late discovery from the state, which should have been produced in December of 2022, when another terabyte or so tranche of discovery was produced to us, I begged Chief Judge Glanville to put a hard deadline on the discovery being produced from the state. He refused to do so. And you know what Judge Glanville's response to me was when I will tell you. I will tell you what his response was. If this was a civil trial, I would keep this out.
As of the last update, the trial was ongoing with no verdict, and it was expected to be lengthy due to its complexity and multiple defendants.